let me bring in Elvis on this matter. The CJ then, when the Otafo MP, Vincent Asafua, filed his case in court, she was still CJ. She empaneled Adibu Asiedu. But today, she wants Adibu Asiedu removed from a committee that is looking into her own petitions. What do you make of this?
Look, democracy is what it is. It provides clear path as to what things can be done, what cannot be done. And as the democracy grows, we learn through things that happen. So whatever is happening now, we will learn from it. What we should all guard against, which is the reason why we are not even seeing clear what should be done or what should not be done, why we are talking too much, is the unnecessary politicization when things like this come up. If today NDC people can say Akufo-Addo remove Charlotte Osei or Loretta Lamte, then it's obvious if the CJ is removed, it will be Mahama's name that will be on this political scene that politically Mahama removed get to talk on it. That way you can't take it away because it is politics.
Yeah.
That is not a process. They are not referring to or faulting a process. They make these statements for political gains. For political gains. Because whether I like it or not, Charlotte Osei was taken to a process. And up to today, nobody has been able to establish the process that she was taken through by law is faulty. The CJ is being taken to a process. And the process will go to an end until somebody is able to prove that the process she has been taken through is legally wrong. The final decision will be taken. We need to understand that when we continue to politicize things like this, it's going to be creating more chaos in our systems.
Right.
And then it will make it look like our democracy doesn't work. And that is where we will create room for some adventurous people to want to think anyhow. Politicians should be mindful of the statements they make when things like this are happening. Because we are living in a sub-region where we know what is happening around us all around. And therefore, when we have accepted that we want to pass a constitution and processes are laid down, let's be mindful of the things we say. Because tomorrow, as somebody said, I agree with him, when democracy is there, the politicians tend to disregard the processes. They tend to create things that favor them. But then when those adventurous people take over, they say, oh, civilians, come, let's hit the streets. Hit the streets for what? You are the one who created the room for those adventures to come in. So I think that I want to sound this caution, and I'll sound it any day, anytime, that look, let's be mindful of our unnecessary partisanship when issues come up. President Mills took over power and dissolved the Bank of Ghana board. Senior lawyer Sam Okujeto said no, per his reading of the Act of the Bank of Ghana. A president cannot dissolve the board of the Bank of Ghana. He was called all kinds of names by NDC people, insulted all over the place. He went to the court. 4 years down the line, the Supreme Court ruled that the President Mills was wrong in dissolving Bank of Ghana board because per the Act of the Bank of Ghana, a president has no power to dissolve the Bank of Ghana board. It has become the law today. If just Okujeto had not gone to court, it will remain a political issue today. But because he had the courage to go to court and the court has pronounced, today everybody agrees that removal of dissolving of the board was illegal per the laws of Ghana. Under Akufo-Addo, Domelevo, issues came up about his date of birth. That he submitted 2 different dates of birth. And he came out clarifying that, look, the one that said he's due for retirement was a wrong date. Though he submitted himself, it's not the right date. He's found the right date because of birth certificate issues, age became an issue. It was back and forth between the Auditor General and the then President Akufo-Addo. At the end of the day, then Akufo-Addo ordered him to proceed on leave.
Yeah.
And then the decision was taken that the government of the day decided to work with the first date of birth, which showed that he had retired. So he should go on retirement.
Yeah.
Back and forth, Domelevo had to leave. But then someone went to court to challenge whether a sitting president has the power to order an auditor general to go on leave. The ruling came under the same President Akufo-Addo. And the Supreme Court said no president has the power to direct or instruct an auditor general to go on leave. Because per the act of the auditor general, the president has no such powers. It is a precedent now that tomorrow no president can now come and say, I'm instructing an auditor general to go on leave. These are democratic processes, okay? If people are not going to court to challenge these issues, there will not be a clear path today. Because in the case of Domelevo, a former attorney general was also asked to proceed on leave. Okay? At that time, nobody went to court. So it didn't become an issue. You understand it? So because of that precedent, Akufo-Addo also thought that, oh, if a president was able to order an auditor general to go on leave, then I can also do it. And he also did it. But because somebody gathered the courage to go to the Supreme Court and sought the interpretation, today we are clear in our mind that no president can ask an auditor general to go on leave. So it's good for a democracy for people to go to the apex court to seek interpretation of issues. It makes our democracy clearer, especially in a country where our constitution is a confused one. Because we say we are practicing a hybrid constitution where we mix things from other places to other places. So things are not clear where we are saying, like, oh, our constitution is clearly what the UK does, and the one this is it, or this is what the US does. So when things happen, our constitution is not like that. So it requires that we look for more interpretation from the Supreme Court, so these issues to be clear. So we have clarity on some of these issues today, though at that time people made it serious political issues. When Domelevo issue, NDC made a mole out of it. Akufo-Addo is this, Akufo-Addo is that, they made a mole out of it. You understand? And as I said, when Okujato also went to court challenging President Most Power, the NDC made a mole out. How can somebody be challenging the authority of the president? The president has the power and order. The Supreme Court has said both presidents, what they did, they had no power to do it based on the law. So when people go to the Supreme Court to seek interpretations, it is important that we allow more people to go to the Supreme Court, irrespective of the person involved, so that precedent will be there. But then the law will state that this is what it is. Because as I said, when Akufo-Addo saw that a former president has been able to suspend somebody, he said, I can also do it. But now the law is clear that you can't do it. So if we are able to let the law speak rather than precedent, our democracy will become clearer and clearer. Because most of the time when we are relying on precedent, until the law or the Supreme Court speak, we think precedent is what we should follow. But I think the law should take precedent over precedent. You understand? So for me, I think that the Chief Justice going to the Supreme Court and making this request, I think it's in order. Because sitting here, based on comments leading NDC members have made all over in the media space, it's clear to the Chief Justice that she's going. Okay? But in my mind, I'm thinking that she thinks that, well, even if I'm going, I want the Supreme Court to make a pronouncement so that nobody will come tomorrow and say, this is how Tokonu was removed, so tomorrow we can also do same. She wants the Supreme Court to pronounce that A, B, C, D is what it is, so that in the future, no president will come and say, because a former president or a president had done this, I also want to do it. So I think that we should allow the CJ to file as many things that she wants to file at the Supreme Court. Let the Supreme Court make these decisions, okay? And then they become the law to govern and guide our democracy. But then when we give room for this political pronouncement, okay, this is why people will politicize the issues. You understand it? I've started and told you what started all the issues at the EC at the time of Charlotte Osei. If it is not for politics, and we look at the clear issue, we would have realized that there were issues. As to whether they merit removal or not is another point. But clearly there were issues at the EC at the time. You understand it? Today, people have filed petitions against the CJ. You ask yourself, same petition by Professor Azan. Akufo-Addo government issued a position that with the consultation of Council of State and their legal brains, they think that Professor Azan's petition is not worth considering. They couldn't establish a prima facie case from that same petition. Akufo-Addo is out of power. Mahama takes over. The same petition that legal brains, the Council of State at the time, and the then President Akufo-Addo found no merit in. Another president, John Mahama, his legal brains and his Council of State have found merit in it and have triggered the process. All these issues are the reasons why sometimes people think that people are doing more politics, politicians are doing politics rather than the law. Because you ask yourself, between the two, which one do you want the public to believe? Do you want the public to believe that Akufo-Addo, his Council of State and his lawyers were right? Or you want the public to believe that John Mahama, his Council of State and lawyers are right? Which one? I don't know which one to believe now. Because a president and the Council of State and his lawyers says they think there's no merit.
Exactly.
Another president, his Council of State and lawyers says there is merit. So is it, you create this doubt in the mind of the ordinary person now to be thinking that, oh, then this idea of politicians meddling in the law, trying to control how things work, how systems work, is true. Do you understand it? So it's some of these things are matters of concern for governments and politicians and leaders, for us to be able to look at things and say, look, this thing we think that it shouldn't repeat itself. Because when we keep repeating things like this, we create doubts in the mind of the people. And that's why I say that we shouldn't create room for adventurers to think that the democracy we are practicing is not helping, or people are interfering in the process for their own gain, and therefore they want to take over the country. This is what the politician who always want to look at partisanship over the law should think about. If tomorrow there's a military regime in this country, it's the politicians who have caused it. It's not the ordinary person, no. It's the politicians who have caused it by their utterances and the way they want to bring partisanship into everything. If the country set up a process to be followed, and it's being followed, allow the process to be followed. Okay? If they can find, you can file process in the court, and the Supreme Court system will say that this process is faulty, let the court say so. If the court says that it's not faulty, let it be so. The Supreme Court has made decisions in the past. Same Supreme Court has overturned them. And it is what has happened everywhere in the world. So if today the Supreme Court says this is what it is, we work with it. If tomorrow another Supreme Court says they disagree, we work with it. That is how democracy works. But if the Supreme Court today says this is how things should be, and you say you disagree with the Supreme Court, so you want to actually paint the courts and the judges as politicians, what you are forgetting is that you are creating the impression that politicians are now in control of the entire system. The separation of power doesn't work, and that is where you are trying to invite some military person sitting somewhere and say, oh, if the system that we all agree that it should work, the politicians themselves are telling us that they are in control of all the system, then why not the military take over and control? And I think that the messages that politicians send when issues come up and they are more interested in the partisanship aspect rather than the law, they should know that they are creating that room that is telling the public that, Elvis, you cannot trust these politicians. Because how can a president, his legal team, and his Council of State say a petition has no merit? But the same petition, when there's a change of government, another president, his legal team, his Council of State, that there's merit. As the ordinary person, which one am I supposed to believe? I am not a lawyer. I have not sat on the Council of State. I've never been a president. So, ordinary person, which one do you want me to believe that in the case of, and I'm citing Professor Zan's petition because it's a perfect fit for everybody to go back and look at what really is in the petition and how come one says there's no merit, and one says there's a merit. And that is why I agree with the Ghana Bar Association that if on the same petition a president, his Council of State and lawyer says there's no merit, and another president that there's a merit, so long as the first one has published its premier facie determination, then the current president should also publish, because we are dealing with the same petition in this case. So that then you give us the opportunity to say, it is reason A, B, C, D, why the previous government said they didn't have, they thought there's no merit. But this government is saying A, B, C, D. Probably somebody may even also trigger a legal process over that.
Yeah.
By so doing, we are strengthening and growing the democracy. So
well,
I think that let's be focused as a country. Let's be careful of our partisanship statement. Let's rather focus our attention on things that will ensure that the law and pronouncements of the Supreme Court strengthens the process, so that there will be clear in the future that this is it. As Nana has said, people have complained about shelter cell removal. But ever since nobody has gone to the Supreme Court to say, I think A, B, C, D has happened. It is not late. Even today, anybody can go to the Supreme Court to say, I think the process that was used to remove shelter cell is not fair.
Doc, let me come